waiting room, so we'll give it a minute or so just to let everyone get logged in, and then we can kick the session off. So hope you're all keeping well. Looks like there's plenty of people working from home or working at home at the minute. If any of you have been on any of these sort of webinars the last couple of weeks, probably good to notice I've had a bit of a lockdown cut, so the wife's had to go with the hair, but I think the barbers might be. You're
trying to say something, David, are you?
Oh, Richard. I let the wife sort of get a hold of my head, so yeah. So just let everyone filter in from the waiting room, and then we'll kick today's session off.
Anybody else getting Zoom fatigue yet?
I feel I sit an awful lot more than what I used to. Just sitting staring at a computer screen for a lot more time.
This is it. I've got a conservatory out the back with a washing machine and a sort of like a desk at the right height. But I haven't gone out to stand at it. You know, it's good to stand every so often.
It is. My husband actually has a standing desk. I mean, he always has had. He's quite tall, and he just stands. But I actually said to him the other day, I can understand why, having sat for so long at a computer all day, every day. I can see why.
Yeah, they say you should stand for half an hour a day at least, or make you know, sit and stand at the same time. Yeah.
Okay, it looks like we've got quite a few people in now, so there might be some more filter in from the waiting room as we kick off here, but I'll just get going. We're going to have everyone muted, if that's okay. We'll have potentially a question and answer session at the end, but I'll explain all that. So everyone, welcome. If you haven't been to one of our connected webinars so far, we're Bells Matter running a series of webinars under our connected program to really share knowledge, transfer skills in a number of areas in emerging technologies and new product development. And they seem to fall on a Wednesday. We call them Webinar Wednesdays, and it has been working really well. 3 p.m. every Wednesday for 8 or 9 weeks, finishing on the 1st of July. So just to introduce myself, I'm David Phelan. I work for the Centre for Economic Development and Social Inclusion team, which essentially means helping private sector companies and SMEs engage with the college on a range of innovation programs, one of those being Connected, that's hosting today's webinar event. As I've got everyone on mute, if you do have any questions that you think of as we're running through the tutorial with Yvonne, please put them in the chat. I'll collate them at the end, and then I can put a few to Yvonne at the end. We've got sort of 5-10 minutes at the end. We can run through that. But enough of me. I'll pass you over to Yvonne, who will take us through this Power BI dashboard in 30 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Thank you, and looking forward to taking you through this, how to build a Power BI dashboard in 30 minutes. Before I do, just let me give you a little bit of background on myself. I've been working with the Belfast Met business development team for a good many years now. I've been working with them in various programs such as the Shared Skills Academies, Connected, Innovate Us, all working with local businesses, mentoring and upskilling. I've spent about probably 25 years working with a lot of variety of companies, Northern Ireland, Republic of Ireland, and into the UK. Probably worked in most sectors, I would say, at some point, manufacturing, financial, legal. They all have one thing in common: they've all got data, and it's what you do with that data, how you make the most of it, to find patterns and insights to help with your business. So I spend a lot of time training, consultancy, and especially in Excel, VBA, and Power BI. Before I start to show you how to do this, I just want to give you a slide here, which you're probably familiar with, I guess, by now. I'm sure you've seen it in your TV screens. But this is just an image here of a dashboard. I don't really have to explain the term dashboard now. We've all heard it and seen them so often. This is a dashboard. The reason I've put this one in front of you is because this is one that's produced by the Department of Health, but it's actually being produced on Power BI. And it's just bringing together a lot of their data from looking at it from different perspectives and different angles. And that's what I want to do with you today, not with this sort of data, but I want to take more business-like data. So just typical sort of sales revenue broken down into categories and dates and so on, and show you basically in 30 minutes how to take a data set from Excel, storing that information, and produce something like this at the end of it. Just a couple of things before I start. If you are new to Power BI, just to make you aware of the fact that there are various elements to it. So today, in order to build my dashboard, I will be using two elements to the Power BI suite. I will be doing the bulk of the work on Power BI Desktop. Power BI Desktop is free to download. Anyone can download it as long as you have a registered work address, email address, or an educational email address. You obviously can pay for a full license. In saying that, there is a lot of the functionality is in the free version as well. The main difference really between the licensed and the free is sharing and being able to share it with others. I'm also going to be using the cloud service, which is an online element to it. So I'll be making use of that as well. Really, when you're building a dashboard, there are about 3 different stages to it. So the first stage is really where you're importing the data. Now that may be Excel, it may be from other sources, but you're importing it. And normally you find that you have to work with it a little bit to cleanse it. So that can be time consuming. So where you're finding values to make them consistent, you're searching for blank rows, you're splitting columns. There's a lot of different things there that you may have to do to cleanse the data or transform it, which is how it's referred to in Power BI. And that can only be done on the desktop. I won't have a lot of time for that part of it today. I'm going to work with a data set that has been cleansed out. It's in a reasonably good shape and structure. We then go on to build the visuals, so create the charts, which can be done in either the desktop or the cloud. I'm going to use the desktop today. And then finally, once we've created all the visuals, we want to publish that to the cloud, where we will build a dashboard. So the dashboard being the final presentation, if you like. So you have to present your insights back to an audience. The dashboard is where you bring all of that together to give that one final screen or look that will allow people to investigate the data themselves. And that can only be done in the cloud. So you can see there's a bit of an overlap, and yet you almost require two. You require the desktop really and the cloud to do a full of 3 stages. It's worth noting at this point, just a very brief mention, that there is a Power BI mobile app, so you can download that on your phone. What I've done there is I've actually taken a screenshot of my own phone. So the dashboard I showed you a minute ago, I had it on my own phone, and I literally took a screenshot and just put it on here, just for you to see how easy it is to transfer that to the mobile. This is the data that I'm going to be using. So rather than open up Excel and show you there, I've just got a screenshot. It's typical sales revenue data, broken down into dates there in column B, customer segment in J. We've got different product categories and then subcategories within that. There's a couple of years worth. There's 19, column H there has 19, and there's a few of the previous year as well. So it looks in good shape, so I'm going to bring that straight into Power BI and start to build some visuals. Before I do that, one last thing, and I would say this is relevant no matter what piece of software you're using to build your visuals. I can't just go straight into Power BI and start creating charts randomly. I need to be able to identify what I'm trying to get out of my data, what I'm trying to show with my data. And so often the best way to do this is to interrogate it, ask questions of the data. So I've put before you here today about 5 different questions that I would like my dashboard to answer for me. And that will help me when I go into Power BI to determine how to build the charts. So I'd like to know which customer segment has the highest sales revenue. I'd like to look at the percentage of my sales revenue, how that's broken down for each of the 3 categories. I'd like to look at that further into subcategory. I'm interested also in the monthly trend, so across the year 2019, what are the peaks and troughs in the sales, and I'm also interested in where I'm selling most to. So 5 questions. I'm going to create a dashboard to answer that. So I'm going to get started now. I had 30 minutes, I think I'm about 25 now, but my aim is to produce a dashboard from that data to answer these questions. Now just bear with me a second, because in order to switch to Power BI to demonstrate this, I just need to stop sharing and then reshare my screen. So if you just bear with me a second, I'm just going to, hopefully that is coming through okay there. And you can see I've just launched Power BI. That's all I've done. There's a little splash screen that comes up here, and I'm just going to close that out. And you can hopefully see my Power BI desktop. So the first thing I need to do is get the data. So I'm going to go to my Home tab here and open up a menu. Now I just have an Excel file. It's just worth noting the variety of sources that you can import data from. Straight from the web, text files, if you have any sort of SQL Server databases or anything like that, they can all be launched and imported into Power BI in order to visualize the data. So I'm just going to go for Excel here and select my file. And just give it a second or two, it should connect. And what I'm really looking for here is down the right-hand side, I should be expecting a list here of all the fields. The fields are just really the column headings from my data set. So it's obviously very important there that my data set had probably the first row, which contained the column headings. And so now what I have down the very far right of my Power BI desktop is a list of all the fields that exist. And so that's really what I'm working off. So that's why when I think back to the questions that I had, that will help me as I determine which fields I want to use. So if I think of the first question, what is my sales revenue per customer segment? So I want to determine where the highest and lowest sales are in that area. So over to the right, when you produce a visual, and this would apply to any piece of software, but normally with a chart, you're involving at least 2 columns or 2 fields of data. So the first field would be the column that I want to group the data with. And in this case, that would be customer segment. So I'm just going to find it here and just tick it. That's all I'm doing. And over to the left on the report canvas, Power BI will probably start off with a table here. So what it's done is it's gone to my data, found each of the values in that column. Now there are only 4 different segments: consumer, corporate, education, small business, and it's listed for me them in a table. Now I just need a value to summarize that with. So I'm going to go for my sales revenue column. If I tick that, it will add to the table a summary. Now the default is to sum. It can be changed to other calculations like average or count, but I'm going to stick with a sum. If you've used Excel before, if you've come across Excel pivot tables, it would be a very similar concept there, where it's taken a large amount of data and summarized it to give you an overview there. So that's a table. Now I can keep the table in my dashboard. You may find tables often are useful in dashboards, but the chances are you may want to change how that data is represented. And this is very easy. Now I've built it over here. All I'm going to do is go to my visualizations pane over here to the right. Now there's a huge variety of charts. I only have a small amount of time, so I'm going to focus on the basic 4: line, bar, column, and pie, and just add a couple of additional ones in at the end. So I'm going to go for a standard column chart here, just a clustered column. 1 click is all I need, and there I have my chart. And I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger for you there so you can see, and just move it around. But with very little effort. As long as I knew what fields I was using, as long as the data was structured correctly, Power BI does the rest for me. So I've got my first visual, basically. So I'm just going to move it around, and I can see very clearly here, corporate sales, for instance, are doing the best. Now, I'm going to make it a little small here because I want to add in a few more. What I want to do is take about another 5 minutes, just adding a few more visuals just to build and add to this. And then I look at maybe some formatting of them, just adjusting them and customizing them a little bit just to give me exactly what I need. But for now, I just want to add a few more in. So one of the other questions I had was the percentage of the revenue for each of the 3 categories. So I'm just going to click on the canvas again, just over here. That was product category. So I'm just going to tick it, and I'm going to tick sales revenue again. Same as before, I get a table, I get a summary of the total sales for each of those categories. And I fancy a little pie chart this time. So I'm just going to click on the pie here, and it turns my data into a pie chart. Again, it could do with a little bit of formatting here. I think it needs a little bit of work in the labeling and so on. I'll come back to that. So I'm just going to reduce it in size again and just move it down a little bit out of the way, just for now. I'll add a third one in. I have my 3 product categories, and within that there would be a subcategory. So I'm going to use the product subcategory field here. Quite a lot of different subcategories, and I'm going to use sales revenue. And because there's quite a lot here, I think I'll go for a bar chart. So I'll just go for a nice little clustered bar chart. And again here, I have a chart. I'll just widen that out. Lovely. Okay, so I'll just move things around a little bit, and I'm just going to add one more probably in. I'll add a line chart in for now. So I'm going to move the pie chart there a little bit, just do a little bit of rearranging. Try to squeeze as many as I can in for you, so you get a decent enough overview of what's available. I'm going to do a line chart. So I'm going to I'm interested in looking at how my monthly sales are. Now I should say first of all, and I'll come back to this in a minute, but the data that I have in Excel is 2 years worth. It's 2018 and 2019 sales. My dashboard, I'm really only interested in 2019. But at the minute, I'm using all the data in Excel. So when I look at this, for instance, this value here for corporate sales is across the 2 years. This slice of pie here is across the 2 years. So I'll deal with that in a minute because I'm really only interested in 19. But let's just see what happens when I bring a date field in. So I'm just going to click on order date here. And I'm just going to add sales revenue in to that as well. Okay. And I'm going to change it to a line chart. Now, it doesn't look great. It's okay. I've only 2 years. That's the main reason why it's not looking great. And okay, fair enough, sales have gone up. But when I use a date field in Power BI, I have the ability to group it in different ways. So rather than look at the trend across the years, I don't have enough years to deal with that. I'm going to go over to my visualizations pane and down to the axis section, where I can see here how my chart is being distributed. So I can see here that Excel has broken it down into days, months, quarters, and years. And all I'm really seeing is the years. I'm just going to remove years. That brings me to quarters. I'm not interested in quarters for now either. There we go. Lovely. So now I can look at my sales across a monthly period. So I'll just widen that out a little bit. I don't need so much room for my pie chart, so I'll just bring that in a little bit more. Okay. So that's the first thing. Now again, bear in mind, when I look at January, it's January for the 2 years. So I will come back to that in a minute. Bring it back to 19. I just want to finish by adding a few more elements into my dashboard. Slightly different type of visual, very effective though, is a card. So I'm just going to go over, I'm going to click on the visual first here. So if I click on the card visual, now it doesn't take up much space, so I'm just going to bring it down here a little bit. And a card visual really only uses one field, and it's normally a numeric field. So I'm going to just tick sales revenue here. And what it's done is it's given me a total, a sum of all the revenue. So basically every single row in that Excel spreadsheet, it's added up all the values, and I've got my total revenue. Now I'm not going to do much with it. I'm just going to leave it there for now, but I will come back to that and we'll see the effect of that later. I want to add in another element called a slicer. Just going to click on slicer here. A slicer is a lovely visual which allows me to filter with my screen. So I'm going to use the country field for this. Now, I think I have about 3 different regions that I sell to. So if I just click on country, there they are. They're listed here in the slicer. It's quite small on the screen, and I'm going to finish it by customizing that a little bit in a minute. But basically what I've got with a slicer visual is the ability to filter the rest of my visuals. So if I select Europe here, just keep an eye on the other visuals. So if I just tick Europe, you can see all the other visuals, including the card, have now interacted, and it's filtered the results to only show me the European sales. So if I just take that off and go for UK and Ireland, you can see how they all change again. So it's a lovely way to add in a visual if you have a lot of data and you want to narrow it down or break it down. A slicer is a really nice way to do that. So I'm just going to leave that there. As I say, I'm going to work with the appearance of it in a few minutes, so I will come back to that. I just want to add one more element in, and that's really, I'm just thinking ahead to my dashboard. I'm just going to put a little text box in here. I'm just using the Insert tab, text box. I'm just going to put a little bit of text, sales revenue breakdown. Oops, I can spell there. I think I missed an A out. 2019. So put that in. So it's just a standard little text box there. So select the text, and I'm just going to maybe make that a bit bigger. Center align it and bold. That will do. So I'll just resize the text box there and put the text box up at the top of the screen there. So just select that again there. Oops, hard to get hold of sometimes. Okay, so so I've taken probably about 10-15 minutes there to get to this point. So knowing my data, understanding the questions that I'm trying to answer with my data, I've used the relevant fields to place in just a variety of charts, and hopefully you've seen how relatively straightforward that is. The complexity sometimes comes with the data itself and how it's structured, but once you've identified what you need out of it, you can produce something like this in a relatively short period of time. So my next step is to take what I've got and just make it look a little bit better. So work with the formatting. Now, I probably don't have time to format every single visual here, but I just want to point out a few things. So I'm just going to take this visual here at the bottom, the first one I put in, the column chart. When you format a visual, and formatting could be anything from color to the labeling to the axes, all of those changes are done over here to the right, but you must select the visual first. So it's done on an individual basis. So I've selected my column chart, going over to the visualizations pane, and down here, the bottom half, this is the axes section that shows me here currently what fields I'm using. I'm interested in the formatting, and that's the little icon here with the little roller brush. So if I just click on that, now there's a huge amount of formatting. It depends as well on the chart type as to what options you get. I have a chart that has axes on it, so I get ways of formatting that. I'm just going to go down here to the title. So if I open that up, I will get lots of different ways I can change the title. So I'm just going to remove the word sales, so it just says revenue by customer segment. And I'm also going to scroll down here, center align, and I'll just increase the point size. So hopefully you can see there as I do that, that it's changing automatically. So that's just one small change I've made there to one of my charts. Just going to make a few more. I'm going to take my pie chart. What I might do here as I do this, just maybe for your benefit, I suppose more than mine at the minute, is that I can go into focus mode on a chart anytime I like. So I'm just going to click on this little icon here, which appears above the chart when I selected it. It just brings it fully onto the screen. So it just sits on top for a second of all the other visuals. So it just means hopefully you can see it a bit more clearly as I format it. Same principle though, I would be going over to the right here to have a look at the ways in which I can format it. Now, I wanted to do something with the labeling. I thought that needed a bit of work. So instead of title, I'm going to find detail labels over here. So there's a huge amount of options in here, and it's often just a matter of browsing through until you find what you need. So the labeling now, I don't really want the label to have the value and the percentage. I'm only interested in percentages. So I'm just going to change that to just percentage of total. And I think I don't really want decimals, so I'm going to set it to 0 decimals. Of course, I've got to be careful there that with the rounding up and rounding down, it still adds to 100 there, so I'm fine with that. I'm going to change the size of those labels a little bit, and I'm also going to position them inside. There we go. I'm happy with that. I'm just going to do one more thing, not with the detail labels. Again, just to let you see the variety of formatting choices I have, I just want to change the legend. That's a little color code over to the right, and I'm going to change it so that it sits to the left. There we go. And then I'm just going to click here on back to report, and that will sit in the report there with the changes that I've made. So you can hope, I might just have to bring that out a little bit there to see the full, maybe made that text a little bit big. So I'll just go in there again to detail labels, bear with me, and I'll maybe just change it down. That might do. Okay, so as you can see there, hopefully you've got a feel for different ways in which you can format your charts. I don't have a lot of time to maybe go and fix each one up the same way, but again, consistency is important when you're creating a dashboard, so each chart should have the same size of text, the same font, and so on, if possible. I am going to make a formatting change to my slicer. So this is very useful, especially if you have very little space. So I'm just going to take my slicer, go to formatting for it. I'm going to take the header off. I don't need to see the word country there. And I'm going to go into general and set it to horizontal. So that will just give me a much better way now, if I stretch it out, of looking at the slicer. Perfect. So now I can sit this at the top of my screen, and it's a much easier way to work with the data. There we go. So we're getting somewhere. So let's just look at what we've got. We've got our few visuals. We've got our card. The slicer's working beautifully. So if I select a location, it filters the data, and all of the charts automatically update. So I'm really just going to finish off by doing two more things here. I'm going to change the color scheme. Now, I can use the formatting again to go in and individually change each chart in turn, but if I go to my View tab, there's a little gallery here, and I'm just going to choose one of these options. I'm going to go for temperature, and it's just updated, so it's given me various shades and so on. So I'm happy enough to stick to that. So all that's left for me to do now is just to finish off with a little bit of filtering. I mentioned at the start that I'm using data here from 2 years, but really all I'm interested in is 2019. So that means each of the visuals that I have, my line chart, my pie, all of them should only be using certain data. Now, when I have a visual on my canvas, I can select that visual, and I have a filters pane, and I can apply a filter to that visual. However, what I'm going to do here is, rather than apply a filter that says show me only the 2019 data to each visual, it's the same filter on each one, I will apply a filter at page level. And so it will automatically apply it to any visual that I put onto this page. A page in a report on Power BI, if you look down at the bottom here, is a little bit like an Excel worksheet, a tab at the bottom, and you can have as many pages as you like, each with their own set of visuals on it. I'm only doing one for today. I've only got 30 minutes, so I'm only sticking to one, but bear that in mind. So when I apply the filter will apply to page level, page 1. So I'm going to use my year field, which determines whether the year is 2018 or 19. And all I'm going to do here is, from the field list, drag it into the filter on this page section, filter on this page. It opens up various options for me here in terms of filtering. It's just a basic filtering. There's the 2 years that exist in the data, and I'm going to ensure that it's only 19. So every chart, every visual right away should update to reflect that. One last thing to finish off with, and that is how the charts interact with each other. So we've seen already when you bring a slicer into a visual that all the other charts filter. Now that happens without us doing anything. That's just how slicers work. On top of that, however, a chart will also interact with another chart. So let me show you what I mean here. If I go to my customer segment column chart at the bottom right, and when I click on the corporate column, watch what happens all the other charts. Okay? So what's happening now is my line chart automatically shows me the monthly sales for corporate. The pie chart, now it looks a little odd, but I can fix that up, which is what I'm coming to. The product subcategory, the bar chart at the bottom left, it's what's called highlight. So it keeps the bar chart, keeps the bars, but it shows you with a bit of shading where the corporate sales fit in. And that applies on any column. Click again, and I remove it. And all my charts are set up to do that. So if I click on a slice of pie, 41% for technology, my bar chart highlights to show me only the relevant bars for that particular group, my column chart as well. And so it's a lovely feature. You don't have to do anything, it just happens. However, I'm just going to amend that very slightly just to finish off my report. So I'm just going to take that off. I'm going to go to my Format tab and click on Edit Interactions. Now, when Edit Interactions is on, when you hover over a chart, you can see a few little icons that appear at the top of a chart. Now, I'm going to select my column chart here. And what I can do, now that Edit Interactions is on, is I can determine how the other charts on my page interact when I choose a column from the customer segment chart. So instead of highlighting, which is the option here, I can set it to filter, or I can even set it to none, so it doesn't act at all whenever a change is made. I'm going to go for filter here, and I'm also going to my pie chart and set it to filter. Don't need to do anything with a line because that happens automatically. So now watch what happens when I choose a corporate from here. Instead of highlight, it just does a straightforward filter. And the pie chart looks better already with that. Now, I've only done that for one chart, for customer segment. I've determined how all the other charts interact with it. If I want to do the same again for, say, my pie chart, I would have to click on it and go around and determine how all the other charts interact with it. So I'm going to turn set it to none for subcategories. So when I choose technology, I don't really, well, actually, no, I will. I'll set it to filter, actually, there it'll be fine. And I'll set this to filter as well. So it's basically just about selecting a chart and determining how the filter works. So let's just see now if I choose office machines here, set that to filter now. You can see there, instead of filter, I get a highlight. So it's a lovely way to be able to allow the charts to interact with each other. So I'm just going to turn that off. And I think now I'm happy with my dashboard, or with my report. So what I have here in Power BI Desktop is a report. Now I need to save it yet. I started a blank one, and it's like anything else, I just have to save it away. So I'm going to finish off, take probably just about another 5 minutes, I would say, to publish this and make a dashboard out of it. And really what we're talking about here is presenting it in some way to an audience. One screen takes up the entire screen, rather than just looking at it within the Power BI Desktop software. So to do that, I need to save it. So I'm going to do that first. I'm just going to go to File and Save here. Just going to save it onto my downloads, I think, just here. And I'll call it 2019 Sales Report. Okay. It's saved away as a .pbix file, and so I can open this anytime I like. I can back into Power BI, open it, and work with it again. So what I would like to do now is make a dashboard out of it. Now I mentioned at the start that if you want to create a dashboard out of your report, you have to do it in the cloud service. So I cannot create a dashboard in the Power BI Desktop where I am at the minute. So I'm going to publish it. It will involve me here. Once I click on publish, it will involve me sharing the screen out again, because I'll be going into my internet browser. Once you download Power BI Desktop, you create an account and you can log in to that account on the cloud. It's just a matter of going to Power BI login, and you can log in and you will get into the cloud service. You can create dashboard directly in the cloud service, or you can do what I'm doing here. You can go into the report and publish it up to the cloud service. So I'm just going to click here on publish. It's on the home tab. I'm just going to select my workspace here, which is what you have. That's where everything's held on the cloud service. And it should hopefully take just a few seconds here. It's told me success. Well, that's very good. Pleased about that. And in fact, what I'm going to do is click on the link, and that will just launch me into the report on the cloud. So I've just clicked on this. So bear with me, because this is where I have to stop sharing and share out with you again. So I'm just going to go on to the cloud here. Okay, so hopefully you can see that screen. So I'm now in the cloud service with my report. It looks a little bit different, so you don't have that ribbon that you would typically have in the desktop. You do still have some menus, and down the left-hand side, I have my reports. I haven't made a dashboard of it yet. I have to actually do that, but it sits down here, down the left-hand side under reports. So what I can do, if I wish, is I can always go to Edit Report. And if I click on Edit Report, I said earlier at the start, you can work with the visuals on the cloud. So you can see here a similar menu to what I would have had in the desktop. So if I want to change my visuals or add any more in, I can do that. I'm happy enough with what I've got, so I'm just going to save that. Because what I really want, just to finish off here, is to show you how easy it is to get a dashboard out of this. There's a little menu at the top, and it's this one here that I'm looking at, pin a live page. So I'm just going to click on that. And what I'm doing is I'm pinning the page that contains the visuals into a dashboard. Now I can do it to an existing dashboard, or what I would like to do here is create a new dashboard. So I'm going to call this 2019 Sales Dashboard. I'll just click on Pin Live, and again, Power BI does all the work for me. I'm being asked here, do I want to go straight to the dashboard, which I'll do. Notice also it lets you have a phone view. I mentioned at the start that you can use look at your dashboards on the mobile app. I lost that little pop-up, it's disappeared, so I'll have to actually go down the side. I talked for too long there. If I open up dashboards, it should be sitting here. So if I just click on it, I say it doesn't really look that much different from the report, but the main thing, all that's really left for me to do at this point is to bring this into full screen. So I'm just going to click on this button here, and there's my dashboard. So think back to what I showed you at the very start on the PowerPoint slide. I had a screenshot of what I was going to produce, and here we have it. So I think that was about 30 minutes. I apologize if it was just over, but just want to finish off by showing you all those interactions that we had. There's the slicer, so if I click on Europe, everything is working there very nicely for me. If I select corporate down here, I can see how everything just filters automatically. I select a piece of pie here, and so on. So that's what I'm looking at. This is what I have, my final product, in order to be able to present all my findings back to an audience. So say it didn't take me too long. There's obviously a lot more that Power BI has to offer, but essentially a dashboard like this, as long as you have the data structured correctly, a little bit of work, and you can produce something like this. I'm going to finish there. As I say, hopefully I got that done just within the 30 minutes. David, I know I'm just going to really hand over to David, and I think he's just going to finish. I'm just going to stop sharing and put on the PowerPoint slide again. So if you just bear with me there. And I just want to bring up one last slide and hand over to David.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Yvonne. So we'll quickly run through a couple of questions that have actually come through. just as you've been doing the tutorial. But thanks very much for taking us through that. I know it's not, but you make it look very simple and easy. So it's all very slick, and the constant talk of pies has made me quite hungry. So I might have to get on
donuts,
something.
David, I should have done those.
Even better, yeah. So yeah, we just got a couple of questions. So we'll just take a few minutes to run through. So I had a question in to ask: can you apply the filter, so I suppose any filters, to a specific report and not necessarily the entire dashboard?
The filters now to the report. So when you're in the dashboard, the slicer, for instance, that I had, I think that's what you mean, is it? So it's the slicer on the dashboard.
Yeah.
The slicer on the dashboard affects all the visuals on that page. So you can second page into the dashboard, which would different slicer with it. You can customize it basically, so there are various options.
Okay. And then just a few more. Next one was, well, I think you covered it by bringing it into the sort of cloud-based format, but how would you export charts, visuals, etc., generated to other MS Office tools such as Excel or PowerPoint, also ensuring the slicer functionality is enabled? I'm guessing that's potentially not possible.
If I can just actually show you, it is actually quite, you can't export it using the slicer basically. So you can export it, but all you'd be doing is really using I'm just looking there to see if I could get in there to show you again, but I think I've closed it. You can only export it, but you wouldn't have the interactions with it, unfortunately.
You wouldn't have the live sort of being able to chop and change it live sort of scenario.
Yeah, so it's really if you want to keep that interaction, so you can easily, it's just file and export, and you can export it to say PowerPoint or PDF or anything like that, and it goes straight in to say PowerPoint slides very easily, but there's no interaction. If you want to keep that interaction, you really have to keep it within the Power BI sort of suite. You can, as I say, you can create what's called an app off the cloud service, and so this app is then distributable to other users. So it is possible to do it that way. If you want like to send it to someone, they can look at it and I suppose explore it in their own time. Now, in saying that, you can't do that if you have just downloaded the free Power BI. That's really what you're paying for when you pay the subscription. The license, there are a couple of different versions, but Power BI Pro would allow you to do that.
Okay. And then last but not least, I've got a question in to say, or to ask, can you set up a default template of charts to use for different data sets, assuming they all have the same sort of file name, data structure, etc.? So I suppose it's once you've got a dashboard, having that, you can use that over and over again, I suppose.
There are a few ways around it. It's probably maybe not as straightforward, like for instance, if you're thinking Excel, you just go and create very easily a template for a chart, just a right click. But there are workarounds, so you can have like maybe a page set up, and then you can change, you can sort of change the data. So to an extent you can. Okay.
Well, you'd be glad to hear that that's the end of the questions. So just I suppose I'd like to say thank you for taking us through that, and it's amazing how much you achieved even just in 30 minutes. That a fully functioning sort of business dashboard that you could publish and go live with right now. So yeah, it was really good to see. But obviously that's years and years of working on it that you can pull that together so quickly. So it's one of those things that the professionals always make it look so easy. But yeah. But thanks for that. I was just going to quickly chat through everyone. If you've been sort of watching that tutorial and thinking, look, that's brilliant, I'd love to know how to do that, or be shown that, or get some more knowledge in that. The college has a couple of different programs where we can actually offer support, specifically in the likes of data visualization or Power BI. So as I said at the start, I work for a department within the college called the Centre for Economic Development and Social Inclusion, and that's really, the function really is to engage with private sector to share skills, knowledge, and engage on innovation activities. So the program that has funded this webinar today and funds a whole lot of activities throughout the year, it's called Connected, is actually funded by Department for the Economy, and it's really a program to help ourselves as colleges and the whole college network work collaboratively with the university sector in Northern Ireland to transfer knowledge and share skills with private sector, and more specifically private sector SME, but also right across different sectors in terms of charity, third sector, etc. So it's a really good way of having these sort of knowledge sharing sessions. And usually in the old world, as it were, before COVID-19, we would have these sessions in person in a sort of in the college or in another location, but we're doing these as webinars. Just in terms of that skills transfer piece, we have a program called Innovate Us, again funded by Department of the Economy, and it's aimed at private sector companies with under 50 staff. So if you're thinking, and obviously it doesn't even need to be based on sales, but if you're thinking Power BI could really drive some value for our business or organization, or you're feeling like it's something that your clients you work with could benefit from, Innovate Us gives us funding to provide one-to-one mentoring with a lecturer such as Yvonne in a very flexible manner. So we can provide up to 60 hours of fully funded one-to-one technical mentoring in the likes of data visualization, analysis, and Power BI. So if that's something you think I could take that on, one of my members of staff could take that on, and really drive some good value within the business through Power BI, please do get in touch to potentially discuss that. And then just quickly a few other areas. Innovation vouchers, if you haven't heard of them, is a program run by Invest Now. Belfast Met College is one of the knowledge providers on that, and essentially that's more of a getting a university or college to do something for you. So that's if you have a great product or process or service idea, but you don't know how to bring that to fruition or physically create it and make it tangible. The Invest Now Innovation Voucher Scheme will essentially give you a £5,000 digital check to go. You won't get £5,000 in your hand, unfortunately, but £5,000 to go and spend with a knowledge provider to go and do that piece of work for you and develop that prototype or proof of concept and prove that your idea is plausible and commercial and works. If you're thinking about it, you just missed a call just a couple of weeks ago from Invest Now. They generally go out to call for applications every couple of months. So we should have another application call come out in another 2 months. But if that's something you might think about, the college can support you sort of looking at your application and see what's possible ahead of the application process opening in 2 months or so. And then last but not least, we have a program called Skills Focus, where we can provide usually part funded, but during coronavirus, DFE have fully funded a range of qualifications. So whereas most of the other programs I've discussed are a bit more tailored, bespoke, and don't only do qualification but the knowledge, Skills Focus focuses on the qualification. So setting an exam or assessment at the end to get that full qualification. So coming down the track, we may have a course in the likes of Power BI, but at the minute we have courses running in Microsoft Excel, Cisco Cybersecurity Essentials, MTA in Security Fundamentals in the IT space, and then in other areas we have sort of business and finance, marketing qualifications within the business school, including Institute of Leadership Management courses, Chartered Management Institute, or Chartered Institute of Marketing, and accounting technician courses. So don't worry, you don't have to remember all that. I'll drop an email following on from this to share the slides, and we'll also be sharing the recordings of all the webinar series to all attendees once we've finished the series in a couple of weeks. But it's just some things to think about. If you're thinking that this Power BI looks brilliant, but how do I do it? How do I get the knowledge in that area? There's various ways we can support in that. And as I say, please keep an eye on our Twitter feed. So it's at E3_BelfastMet. That's where we share a lot of our information about a lot of these programs and support and case studies, and share a lot of information on there for the sort of business community. And just lastly to say, we do have 2 more webinars coming up under the Webinar Wednesdays. So next week we have a new product development webinar, so looking at ideation, creative thinking around that whole process of how you sort of develop a new product, being led by Damien McElroy. So if you check out our website on Eventbrite, which is just www.cedsi.eventbrite.com, you'll see that. And then in 2 weeks' time, on the 1st of July, Martin Naughton will be leading a session on machine learning for SMEs. So very much similar to what you've been talking about today in the data space, but applying algorithms to, I suppose, constantly learn things about the data and turn out insights and analytics, and really train a sort of program to understand the data it's being fed. So if that sounds like it's of interest as well, please do sign up for the 1st of July. That really just leaves me to wrap up to say thanks everyone for attending. Thanks everyone for running us through that tutorial, and thanks very much as well to everyone for the questions. Sort of really brings to life sort of what we've been talking about today. But anyway, thanks very much. Enjoy your afternoon, and I'm away to eat some pie. Cheers.
Bye.
See you later.